The top 25 run by the Sportscast. Today's you can look us up on the Sportscast. Twitter has us. You can check out our app, the Sportscast, in the iOS App Store. We're also on DAB Digital Radio. My name is Alan West. This is Bob Alvis. How are you doing, sir?
We're doing well.
Yep. Normally we're on an hour earlier, but well, apparently I was a
Life
little bit.
happens.
Yeah, apparently I was a little more tired than I thought. But you know what? We'll take it. We'll roll with it. And I wanted to make sure we got on for a few minutes, just because since we were on last, you, me, and Tyler had to talk about the next coach of Alabama. And well, unfortunately for you, it was not Dan Lanning.
No, Turner was right. I'll give Tyler all the credit in the world. He was absolutely 100% right on Kalen DeBoer. So hey, all credit to him for being correct, and we'll see how it goes in Alabama for DeBoer. DeBoer's never been out of the western part of the country, but if you can coach, you can coach, and we'll just see how he does. I mean, obviously Alabama's a big step up, but all the best. I mean, it's not like Alabama got some schlub.
That's definitely true. And then so far, I've only seen one, other than the wide receiver, number 9, decommit from Alabama. Looks like they're staying, and then one safety has hit the portal, but we'll see how that goes. And as we had DeBoer leave Washington for Alabama, then we had Arizona to Washington, and Brennan, the coach of Arizona.
I'm probably more excited about Fish going to Washington than I am about DeBoer going to Alabama. I think Jed Fish is a home run hire, I think, in almost any circumstance you want to see. So, I don't think anybody got a lemon out of the deal. So, we'll see.
That's definitely thing was Brennan, who became the coach at Arizona. He had actually almost become the coach at Arizona back in 2020 before Fish, I guess, took over the Alabama job. So for him, he was able to go over there now, and I'm curious to see what other coaching dominoes we're still going to get by within the next few days. I know last week, the Toledo head coach, I believe, he was offered to become Ohio State's offensive coordinator, and they were still trying to. And also, I saw that the athletic director over at Texas A&M, he's now agreed to become the Ohio State athletic director, succeeding Gene Smith. I'm wondering how that's going to go for Ryan Day, depending on how the year goes this year.
I mean, I think Ryan Day's fine. I don't think an athletic director's job affects him too much. I did see, I think, where the Buffalo head coach was going to go to DeBoer's staff at Bama. So, yeah, I don't think anything major is going to happen. I mean, unless a college coach takes an NFL job, but I don't see any major things happening to where we've got to really talk about some big fish. I don't see it, but I could be wrong, as I've been wrong a lot on this.
I mean, my fingers crossed on it, but I still don't think we're finished with the coaching carousels, although I did hear about possible Nick Saban going to taking over for Lee Corso when he stops going on game day. But that could be a very interesting hire.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see on that one.
That is true. Real quick, I don't know if you've been watching any college basketball this week, but the TCU women, unfortunately, they've had 2 players go down since Saturday. and the other broke a finger. Right now, they don't have enough players to field, having to do tryouts to try to get some more players so they can have enough players by the next game that they're going to try to play on the 23rd.
Yeah, a little necessary roughness right there with Scott Bakula to where we're going to have open tryouts in the gymnasium for the football team. We're just doing it for women's basketball right here. I mean, it's obviously a different way to go, especially for a Division I program. I mean, I watch a lot of Division III basketball, and those kids are, kind of still playing for the love of the game. But at a Division I level, that's almost a stepping stone to a pro job at that point, not just for coaches but for players. So interesting that we're going to open tryouts for Texas Christian University, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, I forfeit 2 games this week. I believe it was one against and one against 8, which because they're conference that's never good since you always want to have as many even though they're looking into the NCAA. It just is going to depend later on how it is for the year. When I was looking at men's basketball, right now, if the season ended today, Zaga would lose their streak of consecutive NCAA tournaments unless they win their conference tournament.
Yeah, long way to go, like you said, but a lot of I don't know if weird things is the word, but a lot of differences that maybe we're not used to seeing are happening in college basketball.
Yeah, I did look up for Gonzaga after Timmy. He tried to go to the NBA. The 2 other players that Gonzaga have been counting on, they transferred to Wake Forest and Syracuse. So that a lot of their would have been at least 30 points a game. So Mark
Yep.
Few's having to try to get in, although because of how his roster is at the moment, he has 2 players that he has averaging over 39 minutes a game right now. So, I mean, it's early, but when Joe Lenard, they're ranked 69 out of 68 teams right now for the NCAA tournament. And, I mean, considering what we would have passed 10, 20 years, that's almost unthinkable to think about Gonzaga not being that you would expect to be contending for the title.
Yep, you're right.
I mean, I know it's still as early, and Bob, I know you say we don't look at rankings at all. I noticed for them and also for UVA how UVA is having kind of a rough streak right now in the ACC. They're going to need some help also trying to get into the NCAA tournament.
Well, and we are in January now, so I mean, we can definitely look at stuff like that, and you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, you don't want to, not that anybody's tanking, but you don't want to tank games in January because January games to me are a lot harder to recover from than December games.
100%. And I mean, that's why when I was looking at some of the, I thought about you and I started doing a little bit of research. Not only the men's side, it's going to be a fight for a few teams just to make you not a number 1 seed. And you're looking all the way down for the lower seeds because it's I wouldn't say complicated. I would say that it's going to be challenging for some teams. And that's why, like, for women's basketball right now, there's a lot of things you can't really count on. We're able to count on at the moment is Caitlin Clark record for all-time women's score. This last week, she passed Brittany Griner for number 4 all time. So she has Jackie Styles, Kelsey Mitchell, Plum left to go.
That's a high list because I don't know if enough people know who Jackie Styles is or was, but Jackie Styles could play. And, Caitlin Clark is in rare air now to be chasing some of those names. And, that is tough because Caitlin Clark. I mean, it's not like she's playing on a team that has very little else. Like when Larry Bird played at Indiana State, when Ella Deladon played at Delaware,
Mm-hmm.
even Jackie Styles at Southeast Missouri State. Those players were the team. You can't really do that at a P5 as much, but Caitlin Clark has just got ice water running through her veins to the T. And I think every time you're watching Caitlin Clark play, it's a level of excitement.
I could definitely agree with that. I mean, she's scoring points that she's averaging over 10 to 20 points a game. I mean, she's only not scored in double figures only a few games in her entire career,
Yeah,
which
that's remarkable.
that's outstanding.
Remarkable.
I mean, right now when they were looking at for the points she needs, thinking that she could get it by, but I'm still curious just to see what happens because she is a great player. There's no denying that. But last year's team, I don't think she's going to have the cast that's going to make it to the national championship game like last year.
Yeah.
Just because when you look at this year and last year, it's not as good of a just in my personal opinion, it's not as good of a starting five or even had compared to last year.
Hard to will yourself at that point.
Exactly. Although I did see something on Monday that what about you, sir? For the first time in 30 years, all five members of the Fab Five were at Chrysler Arena for a
Yep,
Michigan game.
I did see that.
Now, see, a lot of people won't understand the significance of that. But back in the night, could have seen the documentary on ESPN 30 for 30 about the Fab Five. They're not going to see much about it now, but because of the lawsuit that happened with Chris Webber. But those 2 years they were together, even though they didn't,
Yep.
but needed, especially.
Not just that. I mean, it was an exciting team to watch. Really must see TV to watch Michigan at that time. And I think a lot of people know the Weber and the Juwan Howards and the Jalen Roses because those three played in the NBA with some tenure to them. But I mean, most fans aren't going to be able to identify the other two, Jimmy King and Ray Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so when Juwan Howard became coach of Michigan, he said he was going to have a time where they were all going to be together on the court. And I mean, I got to admit that having them on Martin Luther King Day, just so that they could all be together on that day, that was done it. Just because the way that they're iconic, but just how they changed history, how they were when they played. I would say that they fit how Dr. King had for what he would always try to talk about and try to do for the civil rights movement. That's just my personal opinion, though. But also, one other thing, normally we don't always talk about pro basketball, but unfortunately, the Warriors assistant he passed away. His name is Dejan Milojevic. He apparently had a heart team, and he was taken to the hospital, where unfortunately he died at 46 years of age.
Yeah, you hate to see anybody pass away that young because it really makes you examine your own mortality. It was a coach that really had helped Nikola Jokic and
Mm-hmm.
others achieve. I don't want to say achieve greatness, but he really helped with their development. And I think it's really something for the Warriors just to see how they react going forward because this guy helped a lot of bigs. Supposedly, he was a well-known and renowned international coach. So I think those guys always have a place in the NBA. And Steve Kerr, who is probably one of the guys that's looking, just like most people are, to take basketball not just from a national perspective, but globally. His one of his former coaches, Greg Popovich, did that a lot too. So, we'll see what long term effect it has. But let's be honest, no one really should care about how this affects basketball because this is a huge loss to his family, to his friends, and a loss that you don't ever plan on at the age of 46.
Well, here's the other thing. Like I'm looking at ESPN right now talking about, and he. The thing is, people know about him as he was an even better player before he became a coach. Because when you're looking at just some of the information, he worked closely with Jokic, Klibak, Orlando center Goja Bidatsi, Houston center Boban Marjanovic, among others. When he was at the Warriors, he was with Kevin, who raved about the attention to detail. But he was known more as a player because he won, like when he played in Europe, he won more Adriatic MVPs. And apparently, when they're looking at stories of games in his youth, as a 14-year-old, he apparently scored 141 points.
That's pretty good.
I mean, we joke about a lot of stuff, but when you see something like this, not only was he able to be successful as a coach, but how he's impacted these other players. And he did it with his own son. Unfortunately, now it's just devastating to think about because you hear about people talk coach, whereas other people made sure to mention he was a better man. And I mean, to have that kind of statement said about me. So, I mean, that's why it sucks. You feel for not only the Warriors, but the whole NBA community and also the basketball community because we're only seeing about some of the players in the NBA, but because of how much he did over in Europe, not only as a player, but as a coach over there, you you know that they've got to be feeling this hit and just think of Olympics coming up next year or this year. You've got to think that probably the national team for that country, they're going to do something special for him, I would assume. But rest in peace, Dejan Milojevic, 46 years old. Now, Bob, do you remember we talked about how Florida State's trying to get out of the ACC?
Yep.
Did you see that the ACC filed a complaint today?
I did.
What do you think?
I haven't read it. I haven't dug enough deep into it to know what I really think. But anytime you're going to have people trying to leave early or whatever, you're going to have some. I don't know if hurt feelings is a word, but you're going to have some. You're going to have some things happen. So we'll definitely have to see what happens. Just because things happen like this, where I don't think it necessarily means anything yet until we see what happens.
Well, I mean, I just looked at what the here, and so it says right here it has 6 claims, including the ACC, breaching confidentiality in the media rights agreement, and breaching fiduciary and obligations and new claim for potentially substantial damages from alleged contract breaches. Where they say the conference have and recover Florida State damages for its breach of the ACC Constitution and bylaws in an amount to be proven at trial, which the conference believes will be substantial. It also FSU's ability to have school officials and conference leadership positions, which includes the president being on the ACC Board of Directors and Finance Committee. It asks for a permanent injunction barring Florida State from participating in the management affairs of the conference while it has a direct and material conflict of interest with the conference objectives. They're saying if the entire legal process to take years, the next date key is February 16th. They're going to respond to the filings. The ACC talks about the league's legal strategy, which reinforces how Florida State was a willing participant in agreeing to the grant of media rights that's illegal online from. Florida State says it's going to cost about $500 million to leave the ACC without some type of legal win or settlement between the sides. The ACC saying that Florida State accepted hundreds of $1,000,000 as part of the media decade. So they're seeking a declaration of grant rights as valid and enforceable, and that Florida State no longer executed the grant terms. So basically, it sounds like the ACC is just trying to, in some way, up and just be like, hey, we should have done more, but we haven't. So this is our way of helping you and trying to make you seem like the bad guy for wanting to do our end and help you try to do better. It's all. It's all. Because I mean, even if Florida State did accept that money, I'm not saying that they didn't that money. you would want the ACC to do more because looking at how the ACC has impacted Florida State, it's actually the other way around because the brand has made the ACC in the 90s one sport in multiple sports. That's going to play out in court and how Florida State's going to, I guess, deal with and happen. What do you think, sir?
Who knows? I mean, we don't know yet. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I hate to even speculate because this is an area where I am not a legal beagle. So we'll just have to see. I don't have a strong opinion of it. I mean, you're right. Florida State has helped out the conference, but let's be honest, the conference has helped out them too. So who knows? Who knows?
True. I mean, I agree that the conference they want to state the president off that because since he knew some of that information, it probably helped them when they were doing the legal. It's complicated because a lot of people are going to want them to stay in the ACC, and just with how they've been a member for so long, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to completely know a whole lot till their next meeting on the 16th, just because then we'll start to see how the lawyers are going to want to play this out. Either way, that is the update that we have right now for that, and college basketball and full swing, so we're going to see how that plays out, and you know, up how much money it makes revenue not only for the AC conferences. So, thing is, how many more coaches we're going to around, and how many more different schools? Just because when a coach leaves, the transfer portal for him as well. So, I'm curious what Arizona may go to Washington or may try to go to a different school because I don't think there's coaching controversy yet. I know that's going to be something we'll talk about. You're going to start to focus more on basketball coming months over to baseball, softball, and lacrosse, to name a few others. But is there anything else you can think of tonight, I have, Sean, that are pretty important for right now for sports, for college?
As always, you tackle it well.
But it's not always not always the easiest thing, my friend. That, and I appreciate you coming on late with me. So,
Absolutely.
last week we got also make sure that we mentioned Tyler Turner. He unfortunately, when he's on, he always has the Turner cast. Now, if we were going to try to get a hold of you, I know it's dangerous, but how would we do?
Just hit up Twitter, the Sports Buffet.
You have Alan F on Twitter or X, and then I have Alan.West.46 Instagram, even though I normally don't post a whole lot. But we'll definitely see what happens next week, and I'll have a better about college basketball next week, so talk about that. I did look at the 100 best games of the year. We'll try to hit games where some pretty good games, and you had a lot of teams you wouldn't always expect in there. So to hit that more next week. But thank you for coming on, and we're gonna need to figure out about the probably next week. I'll start trying to do that with you so that we can start counting our scores on that. Okay.
Sounds good.
Alrighty. I run
All right, take
down.
care, man.
I'm Alan. Good night, everybody.